Welcome back to Too Far Gone Media, everyone. Mark here, and there's something I'd like you to see, and this is called Section 33, the Notwithstanding Clause.
What the Notwithstanding Clause does is says, regardless of the fact that we are attacking your fundamental rights or limiting your fundamental rights, and the Charter says that's wrong, we're still going to go ahead and do with it. It's basically a loophole that allows a majority to override fundamental rights of a minority. And that's why I agree with my father that it is not a great thing to have in a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But the political calculation he had to make, and he certainly didn't talk to me about it at the time, so I have no greater insight than your average professor of history and politics, is that it was better to have a charter with this clause in it than to not have a charter at all, and understand that Canadians themselves would enforce a high political cost on anyone who said, well, no, this bill that contravenes people's fundamental rights is worth invoking the Notwithstanding Clause and suspending the application of the Charter. Unfortunately, many years later, that political cost hadn't appeared or materialized in the way that perhaps my father would have hoped. And we now get to reflect on whether or not there can even be preemptive use of the Notwithstanding Clause. At the same time, however, I will point out that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is seen more favorably in Quebec by Quebecers than by most other provinces in the country. There were a number of studies done on that a few years ago. And Quebecers are extremely proud of being in favor of gender equality, in favor of the freedom of expression, in favor of freedom of conscience, which is why there are so many people now reflecting on how it is that in a society that values its freedom and its respect for fundamental rights, you can have a young woman lose her job as a teacher because she was a Muslim.
Okay, now you all heard it directly from his mouth himself. He can, and he will. Now, obviously, I can't speak for our forefathers who took place in the creation of this Bill of Rights. If you look at it at a third party view, or from outside the box, I mean, I don't believe that anybody who did sign off on that Bill of Rights actually understood what that meant. Because as long as the government has a loophole to legally oppress your rights, then you're never free. Never were you free. Never will you be free, because they just keep that illusion that you are until they press the button. Or I say press the button, but obviously we should say invoke the rights of Section 33, which is the Notwithstanding Clause. Now, I don't know if this has ever been used against the people like this. I know in Quebec, that this is the only one that I know of. I'm sure if I looked it up, must be several. But I know in Quebec, in 1988, they had used this to go against a Supreme Court ruling that was forcing business owners to have only French on their signs. So they ended up overturning that, but that was for the basic rights of people, right? I mean, it's kind of like fighting for the minority that are being voted against to put, whether it be, I don't want to become a target for saying the wrong things, but let's say Chinese or Islamic if that's even a language. Maybe it's just a religion. I'm a little stupid on that. Judaism, or I don't know what kind of language you would want to use. Hebrew. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean Judaism. I meant Hebrew. My apologies, and whatnot. But it just comes down to if it was used for such reasons to overrule malicious rulings and stuff like that, or rulings that kind of become outdated. I'm sure once upon a time it was all French people and a few English or Espanol or whatever, and so it kind of went with the territory. But now, I mean, although Quebec is very French, there are very English areas such as Montreal and whatnot. Now, I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to think myself, and please leave comments to let me know what your thoughts are, but wouldn't it be better if we just kind of took a step back here and agreed to whoever's next we vote in to really overlook and maybe restructure a lot of parts of the government? Because you have a lot of positions with high paying and there's no work to be done. Like, what I'm trying to say is a deputy director overseeing 6 or 7 people under their belt does not do anything in a day. Like, I'm sorry, but I know enough government workers to know that a deputy director, for the most part, does not do anything in a day. Now, yeah, they're like supervisors. They're there pretty much to babysit, and that's fine. But we should not be paying any goddamn babysitter out there $100,000 a year plus. Okay? That is completely fucking stupid. Okay? You don't pay a babysitter that much money. And no position in the government, except for maybe the role of the throne itself, nobody except the Prime Minister should even make over $100,000 a year. That's absolutely preposterous that in the government people are allowed to get rich. You're supposed to go in the government to serve the people, on behalf of the people, for the people, not for myself, my wallet, and my yacht I'm going to buy next year. That is absolutely ridiculous. So we need to restructure the government. We need, first of all, to remove all senior politicians, because every one of them senior politicians that are in office, okay, either have one or several big conglomerate companies financing them one way or another. Okay, so that is a big no-no. I think also that when people go to vote, all the candidates should have every single company displayed that is supporting them, so that if you're voting for favors towards PCL, or voting for favors towards Walmart, or voting for favors towards the criminal company SNC Lavalin. Yeah, fuck you, Lavalin. And so I don't know. I think we need a lot more transparency, and we need oversight. We need to get random Canadians to be able to oversight everything being done in the government. There's a lot of things wrong with the government, and it's not that it was made wrong. It's that it was either snuck in the wrong way, or it's just outdated. And you know what? I think I'm going to make an episode of just what I believe we should do to restructure the government. And it's pretty intense. It's pretty, there's a lot to do, but we first have to start with a Bill of Rights. A new one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you very much for listening. Till next time.